In this video, I'm going to be teaching how to cut or draft this top with puff sleeve. If you are interested in it, kindly watch till the end. I'll be uploading the sewing videos very soon. Let's get started. So I'm going to be using this brown paper for the pattern drafting, and I'll be drafting both at once. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is to mark 1 inch down to serve as a guideline. So after marking that 1 inch, I'll go ahead and then connect the points with my ruler. And that line becomes our shoulder line. So I just wrote S over there. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to measure from my shoulder to my bust measurement, which is 9, and then my shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches. Next, I'll be marking the length of my top, which is 20 inches plus 1 inch for folding. I'm repeating the same step at the other side and then connecting the points together with my straight ruler. So I have my bust, I have my waist, and then this is the length of my top, and then that is the seam allowance for folding. Next, I'll be putting in my bust divided by 4, which is 9, my waist divided by 4, which is 7¼ For the length or for the hem of the top, I'll be putting in my hip measurement so that will serve as a guideline, so that I'll know the round measurements of that particular area, where the top will end. So I'm going to be putting in my waist to hip measurement with a pencil because it's not really needed. I'll be cleaning it after. So that is my waist to hip measurement, and then at this point I'm placing my hip measurement into it. After that, I'll connect it to the waist. So if you connect it wherever the line touches the length of the top, that is where you are going to mark as the round measurement of that particular area. And then for the folding allowance, you mark it straight down. Next, I'll be connecting it to the bust point. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to insert my nipple to nipple measurement for my darts. At the end of the day, I didn't really use the darts, but then this is just to serve as a guideline in case you need a dart in your blouse. After that, I'll be putting in or marking the dart allowance, which is 1 inch, and then I'll be marking 1/2 inch on both sides for the darts on the nipple to nipple line. Note the front that starts 1 inch below the bust point, that is what I just marked over there. And then I'll be drawing in my dart. So from that point, I'm marking it to the waist and then to the hem. Next thing I'll be doing is to put in my shoulder measurements, which is 14/2 is 7 on the shoulder line and then on the bust line. After that, I'll connect the points together to get a straight line. Next thing I'll be doing is to drop that shoulder by 1 inch to get my shoulder slant. Then I'll be going in by 3 inches and then coming down by 3 inches to get my neckline. So you just need a curve to draw in the neckline, and from that point, I'll be connecting to the shoulder slant. Next, I'm going to be dividing that line into 2, which is 4 inches, and then I'll be coming in by 1/2 inch, then connect with my curve to get my armhole curve right. So just place it on the points and then everything will come out perfect. So this is what I have for my front. Then I'll be tracing it onto the brown paper under. Remember, we folded it into 2. So all I'm going to be doing is to trace it on the other side and then copy the points or lines with my marker. The only difference is the neckline and armhole. Remember, I dropped this by 3 inches, but then for the back, I'm going to be going up from that 3 inches point by 1 inch. I think I did a 1/2 inch, but then 1 inch is also okay. And then I connected the points together. Next, I'm putting in my darts. For the back, the dart starts on the bust line to the hip, so take note of that. Like I said, I didn't really use the dart after putting it in, so we'll do that later and I'll explain what I did. And then for the armhole, you are not tracing this part on the back, you are tracing the straight line onto the back. So at this point, I'm done drafting both front and back, and then I'm going ahead to cut it out. So the back neckline was actually 1.5 inches from the shoulder line, so take note of that. Next, I'm going to be working on the front part of the blouse. From the waistline, I'm going to be marking 3.5 inches up. So you can measure from your shoulder to your under bust and use that for this particular part. Then connect the point with your ruler. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to go in by 1 inch on that new line at the under bust, and then I'll connect it to the shoulder with my straight ruler. So that becomes our new neckline. Next, I'll insert a paper under the front. The paper should start from the under bust line or a little bit higher, like I have done. So after inserting it, I'm going to be marking 2 inches in, 2 inches in. So mark it through to the lower part of the blouse or the hem, and then connect it with your ruler. Note 1 inch of this 2 inches will be for the button allowance, and then 1 inch will be folded in. At this point, I'm just dividing it into 2 so that I know 1 inch is for the buttons and then the other 1 inch is for folding. So at this point, I'm cutting it out and then folding the sewing allowance in. So this is how it's going to be at the end of the day. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to trim off the neckline since it is no longer needed. This is all I need for the front part of my blouse, and then I'll be cutting that part off and then fold it into 2. Fold it into 2 to get the center. So after getting the center, I'll divide this also into 2. I'll cut it off. Yes, so this is what I have for the front. At this point, I'm going to work on the back and then I'll later show you what I have to do. So like I said, at the end of the day, I didn't use the dart, so I'll go ahead and then fold it in, or I'll just trim off the dart allowance on the side off because I don't need the darts. When you look at the style, it doesn't have a dart, but then in case you want to add a dart to it, this is how you go by it. But if you're not going to add a dart, there's no need to add the darts and then trim off later. Just draft it without the dart. So next I'll be working on the back, and then remember I went up from the waist 3.5 inches. I'm going to be doing same thing for the back. So from the waist, I'm going to be marking my 3.5 inches, and then I'll connect the points together with my ruler, which I'll be cutting off later. So I didn't use that on the back as well, so I'll be cutting off the dart allowance from the back too, and then divide it into 2 by cutting the shoulder to bust area out. So this is the fabric I use for the top, it's a satin fabric. I don't really know the type of satin, but it's a bit shaky. That is what I used. And then I went ahead to cut it out. Then I added 1/2 inch seam allowance on the shoulder, armhole, and the places I'll be joining together. And then on the side I added 1.5, and then the hem I added 1 inch. So 2 pieces will be cut for the lower part, and then just 1 piece will be cut for the upper part, for the back and then the front as well. So the front I have 4 pieces since it is cut 2, it is not unfold. So I'm done cutting the lower part of the front and then both lower and upper parts of the back. At this point I'm working on the upper part of the front. So I'll be placing it on my fabric this way. So the wideness or the gap in between, it depends on how much gathers you need at the top. So depending on how much gathers you need at the top, that is how you are going to open it up, or that determines the amount of fabric you are going to use. So with this I used 7 inches. So from that side I marked 7 inches in, and then I'll mark 7 inches in again, just like this, and then I'll be drawing it into a straight line with my ruler so that I'll be able to place the other side on top of it without making mistakes. So after marking my 7 inches, I went ahead to place it on. Make sure you have 1/2 inch seam allowance at the bottom or the lower part. So this is what I have, and then remember on the side I added 1.5 for the other parts. So you repeat the same thing for this part as well. Then make sure you connect these points together before you cut out so that you don't make mistakes. At this point I'm done, and then I'm cutting out. Note the armhole area, the parts you'll be joining, the shoulder, are all 1/2 inch seam allowances, except the side, which is 1.5 inch seam allowance. So at the end of the day, this is what I have. I hope you enjoy the tutorials. Don't forget to like, comment, and share my videos. Bye.